All right, I think we're ready, Rob. I got the recorder going there, recorder going back here. And that's on. Everything's up. My head isn't too shiny today. I use the anti-shine stuff on my head. But anyway, hey, everyone. Welcome to the new media show. My name is Todd Cochran. Of course, I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Rob Greenlee. Hey, Rob, how you doing?
Doing terrific, Todd. It's great to be back with the new media show. It's an amazing cadence that we have. Wednesday, Saturday, and it's just like there was always a lot more for us to talk about on Saturdays, and we always ran out of time because 90 minutes was never enough for us.
Right. But now I'm doing stuff Monday. I'm doing stuff on Wednesday, 2 shows on Thursday, and a show on Saturday. So no,
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow is the correct word for that.
So far so good. I'm not. You know what? The week before last, I'll be kind of frank. I was, I felt like I'd been hit by a truck, and this week, I'm actually, I guess for a better word, I don't know. I didn't end the week so slammed, I guess, but still, the pace hasn't slowed down, but definitely the end of week 9. Can you believe that? We are at the end. Let me double check. I got to make sure I got a counter here. Let me double check it. No, we're at the end of week 8. Getting ready to start week 9. At least I am. Since I have, because, we basically started a week ahead of everybody at Blueberry before they put lockdown. We put our band lockdown a week early. But, so it's just, I know Mike's in the chat. I know Mike's in the chat room. Mike took a couple days off. He needed mental health day. So, well, the customer support folks, they are the unsung heroes here for the podcast. They're essential workers in the podcasting space.
Right. That's true. There's a lot of new people getting in the space.
Yeah. So it's very, very busy, but you made a comment. We got 2 big topics to talk about, but the first, maybe not big, but the first one was that Spotify is experimenting with video podcasts, which I kind of laugh a little bit.
Yeah, video podcasts been around forever, but we've had this movement over the last, I don't know, what is it, 10 years or so? They've been on a state of decline because of YouTube. Guess what? YouTube isn't such a great place to be anymore. So, video podcasting coming back.
Why is YouTube not such a great place to go for? I was arguing with my sister's 2 daughters.
Paying out. They've cut their rev shares basically almost in half. I'm hearing from people constantly that it's just not worth it to produce good content over there anymore.
I think that based on not only that, but community guideline stuff, people say one wrong thing and they're booted. Right. It's happening on Facebook right now. And I talked a lot of, I kind of went off the top rope on my show on Thursday. Mm-hmm. And I hear a lot of people complaining. I'm posting stuffing and then Facebook is removing it and they're all angry. And I had 2 words. Tough shit. It's because you're on Facebook. That's their platform, their rules. They're going to do the way they want. They're going to remove stuff. And it goes back to what I've continued to say for the past 15 years. If you want to have a message, you want to be guaranteed you're not going to be taken down. You're not going to be taken offline. You have to have your own .com. You have to have your own website. You have to have your own, you can't put your media on YouTube. Can't put your media on.
Well, you can't do that solely. Is the
right.
That can't be the only place that you publish it, and that's the key message.
Yeah,
coming out of
it's
that.
good to use all those places until you remove. Right. Now, I got a note from someone that listens to my show that there's a well-known individual. I guess he's in Europe. He has some interesting things to say about COVID-19, and the Facebooks and the YouTubes and everyone do not like what he has to say. And they removed him. And I don't know the guy's content, have never listened to a word he said.
So is this the guy that claims that 5G is to blame for coronavirus?
No, okay. That idiot. So anyway, I have no idea what his claim to fame is, and or what his prognosis or witchcraft. I don't know. I don't care. But here's the thing that I thought was amazing: 3 million of his followers chipped in. He built a platform. He built something for his. He's doing live streaming on his own. He's hosting his media on his own. Okay, so I don't know who he is. He may be the biggest whack job in the world. 3 million people said, "Hey, I like what he has to say," and are supporting him. So, for me, I think if you're an adult, you take all this stuff and you process it and you decide whether or not you believe it or not. And here's the thing about the internet. You can do whatever you want to do, say whatever you want to say.
And people do, right?
And you can, but if you're on YouTube or if you're on Facebook or any of those other platforms, they don't like it. They're going to take it down. It's their business.
A lot of those platforms have been under a lot of political pressure to censor the stuff because there's a perception that conspiracy theories and misinformation is a big problem on those platforms. So, Facebook is trying to walk a fine line.
But it's their opinion that is, I'm not saying government, but some things are verifiable and some things aren't. Well, that's probably true.
Sure.
But a lot of stuff is being taken down, just discussions. And so I'm just saying, Facebook can do what they want to do. We can debate it all day. I don't need to debate it. You want to listen to the New Media Show? You want to listen to what Rob and I have to say? You come to newmediashow.com.
Mm-hmm.
We're up. They can take us off Facebook right now. You guys all know where we're still at. We're still streaming. And if YouTube takes us down, believe me, in about an hour, we'll be back up live, just not on the social media platform. So it is what it is, but
right. Well, that's
true. So if you're mad that your comments or something you're linking to is being taken down, what I have and many others have been saying for many, many years is, so what happens, Rob, when someone comes over to Libsyn and says, "Hey, this guy's saying that 5G is the cause of COVID-19"?
I don't think it's a big issue for us, actually.
Well, what if someone did? Would you take the content down?
I don't think that kind of stuff is really harmful to anybody. Really? You?
It doesn't break our terms of service because I'm not,
right.
Now, if
it doesn't break our terms of service either, but obviously it does with Spotify somehow.
Right.
I haven't read that in their terms that content like that should be taken down.
Do I disagree with it? That someone's saying that 5G is a cause of COVID-19? Yeah, I disagree with that. But
it just doesn't logically make sense. That's the part of it. If you believe that, I've got some swampland for you.
Hey, Brooklyn Bridge is for sale.
Right.
And I've talked, because I do a tech show. I've talked on my tech show what 5G is all about, and I'm a one that actually knows this stuff. I work in RF for 25 years. I know what millimeter wave is. I know how non-powerful it is. I know how sitting in your house with someone sitting literally, you could be sitting up against a wall of your house and have someone on the other side of that wall point a millimeter wave signal at you, and it would not even come to you. Your body wouldn't feel it, see it, hear it, because it doesn't. It works purely on line of sight. It's got to be. You have to see it.
Yeah.
The source, and not have anything in the
5G doesn't really even exist yet.
No, and not even have anything in the way. It's such a. So anyone you want to here's the simple thing.
It's all marketing.
You look at 2400 gigahertz, right, and you look at the sine wave of 2400 gigahertz. Then you look at a signal that has 40,000 gigahertz and look at this, and it's a sine wave. You look at the sine wave of 40,000 gigahertz, and you'll start to understand why things have better penetration from an RF spectrum. That's why VHF and UHF is at 243 megahertz or 112 megahertz. They're not at 2400. They're at those lower frequencies because what they do, they almost penetrate anything.
Right. The bigger the wave, the more they get held up by solid object.
Right. So anyway, it's
really as simple as that.
Yeah. But anyway, Sean says many people posting YouTube are self-censoring against speaking certain terms because they're scared of being delisted by the logos. Yep, absolutely. I know people that are using different words in their YouTube videos. They have redefined a
code word for
a code word,
like an acronym or something.
Yeah, they've just like I was telling you how they had renamed it in Asia. That was kind of sounded really racist sounding. They'd renamed it a certain thing, and it wasn't being flagged by YouTube. So,
I see.
So video podcast. Going back to video podcast, Spotify's going to try some video podcast, huh?
Well, that's the rumor that was put out by The Verge. But there was a time when video podcasts were probably 25% of the podcasting market for many, many years.
So how many of you that listen to music on Spotify are looking at the screen? That's the question.
Well, this isn't a play about music, though, Todd. I mean, I suppose it could be.
No, it's not.
I mean, I suppose that could be part of the strategy here, that maybe people, you can put out, a video podcast into Spotify. I'm not entirely sure what their strategy would be here, if it's something that would be supported on the Anchor platform, or if it's something that it would just be pushed into their platform.
Well, maybe they're going to have
externally from platforms like ours. Todd. I don't know. I know you support video. Libsyn supports video, but pretty much nobody else does anymore.
Well, maybe they're going to be looking at live. It depends. I mean, it depends on how you define video.
Well, then technically it's not a video podcast, right?
No, it's a stream. Then, we're streaming right now. We're streaming live. But when we get done, I hit stop and I publish a feed that actually has a media file in it.
I mean, let's be really clear here. I mean, we live in this, two-sided world ourselves with this show. I mean, we are a podcast primarily, but we do video.
Yep.
That doesn't make us, and we are a video podcast. So we're basically a audio podcast, a video podcast, and a streaming video show. So those are the three things that this show is. To call it exclusively just a podcast would probably make sense only from the standpoint that the majority of our audience is on the audio podcasting side. So, yeah.
So I want to say hello. I don't think we've had. Oh, she disappeared. I think it was Tony or Tori. I'm sorry. I know you made a comment and I missed it. Thanks for tuning in. I know you just left the California and went to some other state, and I know you're quite happy about that. So glad you're back in an area you like. Rita, hello. Rick, hello. Rita says, no, Rob, you have some prime real estate in Florida to sell them. So it means some people believe it. So I did hear this too. Craig, I saw that came across the wire just before I started. That Little Richard.
Yeah, has passed away, right?
Had died today, yep. So
he didn't say from what, if it was COVID or not.
No. But hey, Rob. Since for the last 8 weeks, no one else has died. Okay? Don't forget that. There's been no other deaths besides COVID death. People stop dying in accidents, heart attacks, all the other nasty ailments like cancer. People quit dying for 8 weeks. So, we've had a...
It's an interesting question. I mean, I have heard this rumor. I've never seen any proof or evidence, but I've heard this rumor that hospitals get paid more for COVID.
Oh, they
deaths.
do. Yeah, it was very clear, but 39,000 versus 19,000. So if you go in and don't go on, no. If you go on a respirator, they are reimbursed $39K. If they don't go on a respirator, they're reimbursed $19K. Not if they died, if they just went on the respirator.
Well, isn't it great financial motivation to, yeah, right. That, there you go. Not to be cynical about this topic at all.
No,
right?
because it's horrible. We've had 70,000 people die. So of actually of COVID.
I mean, however they're classified, we've had that many people die. I guess whether it was related to COVID or because of COVID, we don't know, right?
We could spend an hour on this conversation. It's kind of funny. They said all the old people in Florida were going to die, and just the opposite happened. And and now in New York City, 66% of the people that have been admitted for COVID were in quarantine. So what's the deal? I don't think we know what this thing's really doing. I don't think anybody knows. I think they're just making it up as they go, and that's the way I kind of look at it at this point. Yep, people catch it. They're getting sick. People are dying. I think they have no idea. Until now, it's morphing into stuff that's happening to kids. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. So
maybe this thing is mutating too. We have no idea what's going on with it.
Yeah, we don't know. So I'm not a doctor. Don't claim to be a doctor. Haven't become a 8-week doctor.
8-week doctor.
Well, that's, everyone's a doctor now on the internet. Everyone's an expert. True. I'm only an expert in one thing, and that's podcasting. I am a doctor in podcasting.
And we're always learning on that too.
That's right. And I'm a doctor of opinion. So yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see what Spotify does here.
I mean, do you think that somehow this is a unique time for video podcasting to kind of make a resurgence?
I think it's a time for live streaming to make more of explosive growth.
Right, but does that translate into creating more video content that could be repurposed into the podcasting side?
I don't think most of them folks will, because it's cost prohibitive.
Yeah, but I mean, if it's 10% growth, I mean, it may not be huge growth, but
right.
I just wonder if Spotify supports it and Apple support that. Those are the two biggest platforms that could potentially support video, which would be 70% of the podcast market.
Right. But I look at this. Google's not supporting it. That's for sure.
They could very easily,
very easily. But they're not going to impact YouTube, their video platform. They're not going to.
That's true.
Yeah, they're not going to sacrifice that. I will say that you look at this show, and it's not cheap to deliver video. For most shows, if they have a small audience, it won't be bad, but depending on who you're hosting with, it could be 10 cents a viewer, or a penny a viewer. So
speaking of that, have you looked at the numbers for this show on the video podcast side? Have we seen a growth?
It's not much growth. We've always run about 10%, not including the people that, of course, the folks that were live streaming. It varies from week to week. I think last week they had a record, like across all the streams, like 30 to 40 that watched. Mm-hmm. YouTube, like this week, YouTube is doing good compared to normal times. Last week, YouTube had like 10 on it. Today on Facebook, we've got 15 on one channel. I don't know what on the other. Matter of fact, if you're on, make sure you say hi, say hello in any chat room that you're in, if you're watching us on Twitter. So I really think, 10% of the folks watch that. I think majority of folks don't watch on their phones. I think the majority of folks watch on the website, because it's a big download. If they're on their tablets, maybe.
Yeah, or they watch off of Facebook on or YouTube on replay.
Right.
I don't know what our numbers are over there. But
YouTube numbers always suck. I just never focused on building a YouTube channel. We might get 20, 30 on YouTube. And a good one will get 300-400. But I don't promote YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to come to newmediashow.com and watch.
Right. So has there been any follow-up, from the community that you've heard about the show we did on Wednesday?
I think everyone was wow. I posted a link to it in the Podcast Movement Facebook group. Mm-hmm. And, just some, here and there. Wow, it's great info. Thanks. I think we got more comments during the live show than otherwise, but it's 90 minutes. that's 90 minutes. People have a hard time to watch 90 minutes of us talking with someone from Google. So, but I will say that was probably one of the most. I'll put that in a top 10. For in recent years of information.
Oh, for this show, is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Or just generally?
you think about the content that was shared there and the insight and them willing to share what they shared.
Mhm.
If you haven't listened to the show with folks, just you can go to the 30-minute mark and start listening on the last episode. And you need to listen to that from Google. There's huge number of insights in there that it shows where things are going to be going over the next couple of years with them.
Well, and we asked them some questions that they didn't know we were going to ask them either.
True.
and they answered them
Yeah.
somewhat. So, right.
And I teased them a little bit, and I didn't hear from any of the Apple folks, so I was trying to pit one against the other, and they weren't having it. They were playing nice. So, well, they kind of have to play nice with Apple because their iOS app is on. Their it has an iOS app now, so they have to play nice.
I mean, let's be fair to Google. They have to walk a fine line here somewhat because they can't be seen as anti-competitive either. So that's the thing.
That's true. One would hope they'll keep that stance for podcast hosts too. I don't want to have to compete against Google. That's hard. So time will tell. And they didn't, they were a little, they had some stuff in there about Audible too that wasn't 100% clear, but it made it evident that Audible's going to do some more stuff again.
Yeah, that's true. Well, this past week was also a big week with Podcast Movement too.
That's right. Podcast Movement's been moved. And
October 19th to the 22nd now.
And we had some back channel discussions with the Podcast Movement team. And I guess, I understand they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. They cancel, they lose $500,000. They can't cancel. So let's first of all, let's be very clear. Podcast Movement is on the precipice of having very big issues. Because if they can't hold the event, they lose $500,000.
Right.
That they may not survive that.
These hotels are playing some pretty nasty games with events right now.
Not only Podcast Movement, but She Podcast is in the same situation.
Right.
No refund unless there is a lockdown, no travel order. And Texas right now is opening back up. I think Arizona is opening back up. By October, there's going to be no way this country's going to be locked up. So, and I heard some folks.
Well, Todd, unless we have another lockdown because things blow up.
Okay, so again, if we're locked down again, we're all screwed no matter what. So let's assume that we're going to have events. She Podcast and Podcast Movement.
Back to back, I might add.
I was a little pissed. And he's a friend of ours. Very, very negative on it's almost like, how dare they have an event? It came across that way to me. Maybe I took it wrong. But
Who's this?
Someone was talking about there should be no live events until next year.
Online somewhere on Facebook or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
And really super kind of like down on events. And so I feel for Dan and Jessica and the team and LC and all those folks. They wrote big checks that based on historic people attendance, sponsors, all that stuff to have the event. And LC and Jessica said, we're not having a virtual event. That's how I'm reading what they have put out. They're not. They'll have an event or they won't have an event.
I don't think we've heard that definitive statement out of Podcast Movement folks.
No,
and we've heard that from Jessica.
I've heard that from Jessica. So Jessica's going to do October 15th. She podcast is going October 15th to October 18th. Very next day, Podcast Movement starts from October 19th, Monday through
the 22nd.
To the 22nd. Now, I'm just going to tell you, I'm committed to going no matter what. If the show's on, I'll be there. Now, I'm not going to ask the rest of my team to go. If they want to go, they go. I'll be at both events. I'll go. And I hope that other people will consider going. This is going to be completely different. We might not even be able to fist bump. We just might be able to say, "Hey, how you doing?" There may not be any shaking hands. We'll see how it goes in October. But
so, what does this mean for an exhibition area? Do you think are the booths going to have to be further apart? It's going to have to be in a bigger room. What do you think the implications of this?
The conversations will not be as more intimate. So I'm already thinking ahead. Big screen TV. Being able to have people stand in the booth, stand in the hallway, and I'll be able to demo and stuff on a big screen TV, and
at least 6 feet, 10 feet away.
Yeah, at least, and so that we'll have to think about how we're going to exhibit if we're going, because oftentimes we can high five our neighbor too, right next door. Right. So I'm sure there's going to be enough people that are going to cancel, that aren't going to show up, that if there is an exhibition floor, that there'll be, those of us that are brave to come will come. But
well, Todd, I think as you're going through this, I'm thinking in my mind, these are very important conversations that we need to probably kind of push on with this show to help communicate to the community about what these events are going to do at the event, right? And how people can feel safe about going to these events. How are the events going to adjust? And let's, like you just said, start thinking about these things. How can we make events work again, given the fear that exists out there?
They're going to be in a big venue. They plan for 3,000 people. No way are 3,000 going to show up. No way. 1,500 might show up, 1,000. So what they have going for them, at least, is that they have a bigger facility, less people.
That's right. So they can space things out.
So
a little
potentially
bit more.
Space things out, and maybe with luck, they will break even on the event. I don't know how many people won't go.
Right. There may be a lot of people that can't afford to go now too.
Well, that's true.
I know. I've heard a lot of people have canceled their reservations. They've had to, because they're flying in from outside of the country. They can't. There's travel bans that exists, like out of Australia and places like that.
Well, Australia's not even letting their people leave, let alone.
I know, that's what I mean.
Right.
People can't travel.
Yeah.
So that kind of locks out a certain amount of people that usually come to this event. It's not huge.
And this is May, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months. Things are changing every 2 weeks, so we'll see what happens here.
We'll see. Right.
And but Dan thinks there's a 50-50 chance that they'll be able to even moving into October, he thinks there's a 50-50 chance the event will continue.
Yeah. No, I would agree. And October is a huge month for events and podcasting. I mean, there's events that usually happen up in Canada in that time frame. Podcast Day, which is also talked about in the Pod News, is in London, and it's scheduled for October 26th.
Well, I don't know why they do that. International Podcast Day is September 30th. So I don't, again, understand why they're having a different day. But
yeah, it's actually part of Radio Day. So, I mean, that's a regular event that happens in Europe. They added a Podcast Day component. I believe it's a 2-day offshoot of the Radio Day event. But yeah, there's tons of events that go on in late September and October and into early November that aren't even being talked about here. I don't even know if any of those events are even going to happen now.
They've got the Outlier Conference that's going on this week, this coming week.
Right.
May 13th through the 15th, virtual conference, 50 speakers over 3 days.
Right.
So outlierpodfest.com is the website for that. So there's that going on this
There's
week.
the We Are podcast, which we had Runzi on from. That's happening in the next couple of weeks. So yeah.
So I guess we'll see where all this leads. But one thing, switching topics a little bit again, Elsie, Jessica, Dan, and the team, Jared. Good luck. We'll be there for you. At least I will be. But some companies have said no travel. Apple will not be there because Apple's company's already said we've already canceled all travel through X date. So some big companies have already put moratoriums on travel, and events until next year.
Right. I believe it. I mean, a lot of those companies have a lot to lose sending people out like that. And the podcast movement event is, Lipson's going to be supporting it. We're going to be there. So as best we can, it's hard to say how many from the team will be there this time. I mean, especially if there's a chance that could be half the size. It may not be a need for us to have the whole team there.
Right. I can't imagine, we're going to, if things are on the same track as it is right now, I can't imagine more than one of us going from Blueberry. I can't ask an employee what if an employee gets sick?
Right.
Right. So I'm one of the owners. I can get sick,
It's risk. No question about it.
Right. So, okay. $18 million.
Yep. $18 million. At least that's what's being said publicly.
Seems low. Seems very low. What we're talking about is the acquisition of Podcast One.
I don't know if everybody heard that or not.
And what's interesting is that I wonder...
It's a stock deal too, Todd. There's no cash.
It's all stock. So, and I didn't even know the company that bought them. I was just like, who's that?
Live 2 Live is a public company in Los Angeles. They do live music concerts and events, and they're a live music streaming video platform, and they're getting into podcasting. And Podcast One is going to be a division of this public company. Is what it is on an $18 million stock deal. And Norm Pettis, who's the founder of the organization, just to say I used to work for Norm, is going to be the chairman of the new division over there. So, which really, a chairman really doesn't do very much. It's more of a, like I say, more of a role that's kind of sits in, maybe goes to a couple meetings and doesn't really participate on a day-to-day basis, because Podcast One has a CEO, and he's been on this show before.
According to companies, Podcast One recorded gross revenues of $27.5 million in 2019, yet they only got 18 in stock.
There's a lot of reasons for that, Todd, I believe.
We're going to get into it. Under the terms of deal,
are we now?
Yeah. Under the terms of deal, Normal, as you said, he will become the chairman of the LiveX Live subsidiary. He'll become a significant shareholder of LiveX Live.
That's key right there. Significant shareholder.
I look forward to working with Rob Ellen to close the acquisition and achieve the growth we both envision. LiveX Live plans to integrate Podcast One into its music platform. Podcast One together will have a significant opportunity to cross-sell and cross-promote their respective audiences and advertisers.
And talent, too. This is also a talent merger as well. So,
okay. Talent is finicky. LiveX Live for its fiscal year ended March 31st, expected revenue between 38 and 40 million. Adjusted operating loss between 12 and 14 million. So they made 40 and actually had a negative 12 to 14 on the books. The company's fiscal 20 results for the 9 months ended December 31st, post revenue 28.8 million, and a net loss of 30 million. Wow. And the year with about 14 million in cash on hand.
Mm-hmm.
Their CEO of FlyVex Live agreed to a 50% salary cut for any cash bonuses. In addition, other FlyVex Live employees will receive 10 to 25% reductions in their monthly base salaries. Now, you got a company here that's in trouble already. The company needs to continue to evaluate its business operations. FlyVex Live received a $2 million loan from Mid-First Bank on their PPP. So they've got, so let's think about that. They got a $2 million as a, if they had to put 75% of that loan towards salaries, that means that they've got a $750,000 salary run per month at that company. So let's see here. Let me do the math on that. Well, it's, you can look at a company and say, okay, so if they've got a $750K salary run based on a $2 million PPP loan, it's only for 8 weeks, and you multiply that out by 12, they've got a $9 million annual salary run. So, Rob, what do you think salary run over at Podcast One is?
I don't know. I'd probably at least $500,000 a month, probably.
Probably $500,000 a month. So there we go. So, of course, they said how much Podcast One earned at $27 million. And what rev share do they work on in advertising revenue? 50-50, or what do they?
They have a deal with, they got a deal with
Each person?
Corolla Digital that's quite a bit less than that 50%.
Oh, so
I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say
you
what
can't
it is,
say, but let's say that. Would you assume, and you've been gone a long, long time, that their deals are at least 50-50?
Most of them, yeah, right.
So if they did
No, I can say that because most people know that it's a 50-50 operation over there.
So if they did $27.5 million last year, and you divide that by 2, that's $13.75 million.
It's gross sales, Todd. It's not net sales.
Let me read here.
It's gross.
So
you got to take commissions. You got to take commissions. You got to take payments out to talent.
So all right. So if they had $27.5 million in gross, not net,
right?
That's not bad. That's not bad. Of course, they don't have to disclose if they had profit or loss, but I would assume they're profitable. So then,
barely.
So I would say, well, at $27.5 million, if that's even after commissions,
right?
And you're left with $27.5 million. They could, come on, that's
it's gross advertising sales. They have to split that 50-50 with their content creators.
Okay, so it isn't net. All right, I got you. So that means they netted at 13.75 million. So now the margins get tighter.
But they have a deal with Corolla Digital that's less than 50.
Okay, so again, the margins get tighter, and if they're running $6 million in salary a year, they're very close to, they're putting 2, 3, 4 million maybe in profit a year.
Right.
So maybe 18. It just seems so he didn't even get, if it's 13. If we look at 13.75. Oh, that's interesting. So he got maybe he got 1.5 of net.
Well, and Todd, one part of this too that we have to think about as well is he hosts all the shows that are on his platform.
Right.
So he's a platform just like Lipson.
Sure. He's got bills.
And he's not IAB certified, and he's primarily an ad sales company.
Oh.
So you start thinking about the implications of that.
And the reduced value.
And how CPMs have, I'm sure, been declining for them because of that.
So you have, so maybe they got 1.5 net. Maybe.
Mm-hmm. Right.
To me, it's. So
It's time, Todd.
Well, no,
That's what that tells me.
it's what it
It's
is.
time to move it along. Right?
Yeah. And Norm was like, I want out. Let's get
Well,
this thing sold.
I mean, he's wanted to retire for a few years
He
now.
could have retired any time. He's got a good CEO.
Right.
So,
but this is how he always thought that what he was building was going to land, because it's exactly, well, to some degree, it's exactly like what he did with Westwood One.
but I think he was thinking
sold it to a bigger public entity, and it became a division of a public company.
But let us not forget, Jenny owns a piece of this.
And Jenny is part of Hubbard.
That's right.
Radio.
Hubbard Radio.
30% of Podcast One. So I'm not sure what that.
So what
that got resolved.
Right.
Jenny got paid off on that in stock.
So
what happened there?
So I don't think Norm did real well on this deal.
Well, he got significant.
He got stock. He got
equity in this public company, right?
Right.
So you can sell shares in a public company.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Without having to find a VC to buy equity.
That's
right?
true. So
that's his exit. That's his exit strategy is to
sell that stock, and not. I don't think Norm was hurting for money to begin with, being he's got 5 seats on the front row at the Lakers. So, or how many every seats he said he had. Well, yeah, I'm happy for Norm.
He likes to spend money too.
I'm happy for Norm, but I just wonder what that's going to mean for there's going to be some synergies there. There's going to be some Podcast One folks who are going to be wondering if they're going to have a job next week.
I suppose some might be concerned about that, right? Though I think that the disciplines between the two organizations don't have a lot of overlap. Some overlap, right?
So the clients they currently have signed is Adam Carolla, Shaq O'Neal, Steve Austin, Dr. Drew, Heather and Terry Dobrow, Chael Sonnen, don't even know who that is. Caitlin.
He's a kickboxer, a former kickboxer. No, is he? Yeah. Former kickboxer, I think.
Kaylee Brystow, Lady Gang, Mike Tyson. There's a name. Rich Eisen. That's a name. Spencer and Heidi Pratt. There's a celebrity type. All these are pretty much. So it'll be interesting here that you've got a live platform diversifying.
Yeah, I used to work on some of those shows.
So what it tells
some of those shows.
What it tells me is live streamer FlyVex Live knows there's not going to be live events, so they're going to need to do podcast.
Yeah.
So maybe Podcast One's going to gain some more names. But it's pretty hard. They have to remember that if FlyVex Live, and I should look at their platform. If they're doing live streaming events that have music and that kind of stuff, then I put live, not live, live. Then are they? See, they do premium live music. You can't do podcasts with music.
Well, you can potentially as you look forward into the future, right? With the new music licensing packages coming. So we'll see.
So is Weezer, Weezer can't do a live event and put that on as a podcast.
Not currently, right?
No. Do they know that? So why, if FlyVex Live is buying a podcast platform because their live event stuff is in the tank?
Well,
I'm just speculating here.
Some revenue.
That's true. They're buying revenue,
which always looks good in the filings.
Yeah.
With a public company. But I don't know. I think it was an exit, and it wasn't as favorable of an exit as I believe Norm had wanted for the company after all those years of work. I think he was wanting probably at least, in the more of the 40, 50 range minimum, probably.
Well, he definitely wasn't willing to pay for stuff before himself to get to that number.
What are you saying, Todd?
I'm saying nothing. I'm saying nothing. So,
yeah. No, I know what you're saying, Todd, because I've been in the middle of those things. Yes.
What things?
Well, it's the big fish eating the little fish scenarios that have been going around in this medium for many years.
So
right, Todd?
it could make for some interesting dynamics on some people over there too. Their technology providers and other stuff like that. Could be big changes coming for them.
Well, it's such a great platform, Todd. Why would they want to change anything?
Oh, I could write 3 chapters of a book just on this unspoken conversation here. So
okay, yeah,
you're getting nervous now.
Yeah, I am. I get a little nervous too.
Yeah, Norm likes to sue.
Yeah.
Norm, I know you've listened to this, so I'm sure you wanted more money, but as long as you got a deal out of it and you put some cash in your pocket and had fun doing it, and I guess you're not all the way out, but
oh no, he had fun doing this. No
I know he had fun doing it.
Yeah, I was in his office every day for a year, so I know how much fun he had. But I think he really enjoys the stuff that he does.
Well, he does. He has
a great time doing it. He's able to hobnob with big celebrities and big famous people, and
you got to know too. Yeah. He's I hope I have as much energy as he does when I'm his age.
Right. No, he's a go-go machine.
Man, he is about it. Absolutely.
So yeah.
And he doesn't strike me as the type of guy that goes to the gym. Does he go to the gym?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm telling you, the guy's amazing. He's probably got a nutritionist and everything else that makes sure he eats healthy as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. I think he's doing well. I think he's doing well, especially for his age. I think he's doing well.
Yeah. It's interesting. The whole chat room went really quiet.
Okay, well, I think we need to get off this topic.
Yeah. Did you guys get bored here?
I would imagine so. Because I was starting to get bored.
Oh, are you? And me trying to, and I'm analyzing stuff on the fly here. So, there was absolutely.
We always do that, and we always get in trouble doing that.
That's right. There was no forethought, no pre-calculations, no nothing beforehand. We just kind of just threw it up there and speculated. So just remember that's what we do here.
Todd, I also like the quote that Daniel Ek, from the CEO of Spotify, gave out there too. I know I saw it in the pod news, but there will be millions of podcasts around the world, but few that have daily rituals. Interesting. For us to build and invest in them, this is daily podcast is what he's talking about. It's much better fit by owning them than having them as a third-party relationship. What does that tell you, Todd?
It means they're going to build their own content, and the hell with independence.
Yeah, and they're going to build daily relationships. It's content with their user base.
So he's right in some regard. No, in a lot of regard.
Yeah, I mean,
is that?
Yeah.
And the thing is, I think the thing he's failing to understand though is that there's only a few. There can only be a few daily podcasts. There can't be many. Because the majority of listeners don't listen to the same show daily. Or
they
won't.
like some variety too.
Yeah, they want some variety. So it would take I mean, a show would have to be absolutely incredible for me to be able to listen to it daily.
And it's going to have to be, you know, I'm I'm hearing more and more people talk about duration is becoming more and more of an issue. And I guess over the last few years, there's been, I think it was Dan Meisner, I think from that did an article talking about that he's been tracking the top 200 list on podcasts or on the Apple platform.
Yep.
And that over the last 5 to 6 years, the trend line is shorter and shorter and shorter content. It didn't do a dramatic reduction. It's just, it's like a couple minutes shorter every year. It is what's been happening, and there's a shift towards shorter duration content being more popular.
Okay.
I don't, what that really means in practicality as far as what you should do as a podcaster. I don't think it means very much.
No, I don't think so either.
But it is an interesting trend line to think about from the standpoint of, if that trend continues, what Daniel's talking about here starts, you can kind of see that there's a correlation there between these two things. But, I think it's difficult. Todd, tell me what you think. I think it's difficult to have a lot of value in a short audio podcast.
It takes us 10 minutes just to get through something we've done the last 3 or 4 days.
Right.
But we're also,
right. I mean, unless you're doing a show like what, Mr. McCaskey did for many years.
Yeah. Howard Stern is on for 4 or 5 hours, 3 days a week.
Right.
And people can't get enough of that show. But you got Mark Maron, 3.5 hours, and people can't get enough of that show because he's got enough variety in there, enough twists and turns.
I mean, it's a balanced job too. I mean, I think a lot of these people think that, if you do a daily show, you're going to have a lot more ad spots, right? To be able to run advertising. And I would push back on that and say, I think you're going through this ritual of publishing daily content and you really only have maybe 1 or 2 ad spots, where if you do a longer show, you can have like 6 or 7. And I guess it depends on the content production. Is it more expensive to do a longer show? You look at this show, it's not more expensive to do a 90-minute show versus a 10-minute show.
No. But, if you look at
a little bit more
right. Time-wise, let's look at a comment that was made by Sirius. They are like, we've got more ad inventory than what we can run in podcasts. And I laugh. In other words, they have more available advertising inventory than they have podcast minutes to run ads in.
You're talking about on the linear side?
I'm talking about podcast side on Sirius.
They're
basically saying they have more ad inventory than they have shows to sell in. And it cracks me up when someone says that. It's because, once again, 5% of the podcasts are out there is where 95% of the money's being spent. Yet they have all this excess, and I agree that what we see is advertisers' mindsets changes when times of crisis happens. They are more willing to buy into our type of content. And he made my point exactly in a recent article, and I shook my head yes, because we saw that in 2008. When things went tight, podcast ad spends went through the roof. And in
certain categories, right?
In 2008, in 2000 didn't matter. All categories rose together. There wasn't, the money was coming in, but we were running specific ads that went in against specific categories. But I think that that's what potentially people say. Oh, the ad spends are down. I'm
hearing that ad spends are down in certain categories,
right,
of advertisers, right?
Well, it won't last,
but not
long.
Across the board.
But if Sirius is saying that they have, not Sirius, excuse me, iHeart.
Oh, iHeart.
Oh my God, what am I saying Sirius for? iHeart. The iHeart CEO said this, that they have more inventory than podcasts to run in. that's such an opportunity because 90% of the shows out there have no ad inventory in it at all.
I mean, a lot of podcasts don't want to have ads either.
Well, that's true. 50% of those, 90% don't, at least.
So did you hear, actually, it was another item in Pod News too, about John Gruber. Ben Thompson and John Gruber have launched a paid-for podcast off of let's say it's called, the podcast, I believe, is called Dithering. It offers 3 episodes a week, 15 minutes per episode.
Dithering.com?
Yeah, I don't know if it's dithering.com. Here, let me look at the address here. I believe it's dithering.fm.
Dithering, it's a weird name.
And it says 15 minutes per episode, not a minute less, not a minute more, costs $5 a month. It uses the memberful platform, what it's called.
Okay. Why would I buy this?
John Gruber is a pretty popular podcaster. I know that. I don't know Ben Thompson, but I do know of John Gruber.
So what is this show even about? I don't even know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Don't know.
Okay, here's
John has usually done kind of like tech stuff.
Yeah, it looks like tech stuff. Tech earnings, the strong get stronger. Welcome to Dithering. The shop app and virus uncertainty. The MacBook Pro. So 15 minutes, huh? He's doing a 15-minute show. That's hard to do. 15 minutes at 15 minutes.
I mean, John has done a lot of. I think for many years he had a blog talking about Apple.
Do you think people are actually going to do this?
I think he's got a pretty strong following in that particular community. So I mean, Todd, if we did that with this show, we'd pick up some people paying it.
15,
it wouldn't be a huge number.
15.
It'd probably be like 0.5% of our audience, maybe.
Oh, that doesn't pay the bills. Of course, we're not doing anything to pay the bills anyway with this show, but
right. I mean, and what I've heard from people that have deployed similar things to this in the past is that it just slowly grows over time. It takes a long time to grow to anything substantial, but as you pick up passionate fan bases to your program, that people want to support you. It just depends on if this is more of a donation offer or is it a requirement?
It's a requirement.
Okay.
So $5.
That's the only way you can get access to the content.
Yep. Subscribe to listen. $5 a month and $50 a year.
So are they offering any free content on this site? Let's take
a
look at. Is it a freemium model or is it?
No, it's member. I think member only. Let me go over. You got to pay to get it.
So there's probably not a public RSS feed then.
I would not think so.
Yeah.
Of course, some of these membership sites, which we're finding out, are not very secure. Okay. I love all the implied security around membership sites.
Right. It's usually not as secure as you think it is.
No, not at all.
Which is a good and bad thing at the same time, right?
So I guess if you already have a Dithering or Stratchery account, so apparently they've already been around for a while. Stratchery.
I think that is another podcast by
that's
Thompson.
the one. That's the one by Ben Thompson.
Right. So this is a collaborational effort between those two guys.
Yeah.
So, and they're both using the same kind of monetization platform.
What's interesting is they're both. Ben Thompson. I think the reason I may have known his name is they are longtime bloggers.
Yeah. No, exactly. I know John built his reputation on blogging about tech companies and stuff.
Oh, here's the deal. So subscribe to Dithering, $5 a month. Subscribe to Stratchery, $12 a month. Subscribe to Dithering and Strategy, $15 a month or $150 a year. So they're doing a collab. You can get Strategy is, I guess, more valuable at $12 a month than $120 a year. Man, if we could get everyone in this show to pay us $12 a month, Rob, we might actually have to have day jobs.
Hey, Todd, we could try it.
Yeah, right.
I think we'd have to think about our content production a little bit more than we do.
Oh, I think so too.
Right.
Go to a pay model on this thing.
Yeah.
$20 a week. Or we'll do the James.
But the key question, Todd, is would we do it as a required payment or would we do it as more as a donation?
If I'm going to have to spend extra time and plan and build, it's going to be all in. All in.
It's going to be one way or the other.
One way or the other, right? Because otherwise, I can't show up here at the studio at 11 a.m., get everything fired up, have enough time to run and grab a sandwich, eat that, and then start the show without any prep. That's the free version. The paid version is 5 hours of show prep work.
Right.
Sean Thorpe says, not sure I get the 15-minute format unless this is meant to be a news-heavy show instead of commentary. I think that's exactly what it is. I think the strategy is more of a strategy type of discussion.
Right. Yep.
So, interesting model. There's a lot of those premium models coming out. A lot of people are trying to do that. And if you have a big enough audience to begin with, then you can be successful at it. But the key is to have a big enough audience. I had a call with a gentleman. I'm ramping up my consulting calls to podcasters again that host with us, and had a call with a guy that's been in it a month, and 8 or 9 episodes into show 1, getting ready to launch show number 2, and wants to make money right now. And I had to have that conversation with them about. It was kind of went like this. My, show number 1 doesn't have a lot of dedication by the host, which he was doing the production with. And show number 2, which he was going to start with, it was just going to be him. And I'm like, well, if you don't have, high cooperation between the co-hosts on show number 1, you're never going to get to the size you need to monetize anyway.
Right.
And I think people just think now, because I think they can just think they can make money in day one. And I'm seeing more of that, where people just think this is a cash printing machine. And we both know that's not the case.
Yeah.
I wish it
Todd,
was.
did you hear about this listing in Pod News about the world's first HD podcast, high definition podcast?
Sure. We post the show at 128K. That's not high definition audio?
Not by the classification that this podcast is designating. It's a rock and roll archaeology podcast.
Okay.
So the podcast itself is 192 kilobits per second, which is good quality. However, playback on their website downloaded chunks of audio that were 5.3 megabytes every 30 seconds. That's an audio bit rate of around 1384 kbps, which is roughly the size of a WAV file. So, yeah, for a 98-minute show, that'd be a 524 megabyte download.
I would contend that any podcast that's out there today, if you listen, if I was to, matter of fact, I should do that. I should put up the WAV file of this show and the MP3, and then you listen to the WAV file and you listen to the MP3 and tell me if you can hear the difference. I would contend that you'll not be able to tell the difference between the WAV file and the MP3 version of this podcast.
And the big reason for that is most people are listening on these
earbuds.
And earbuds have pretty awful high quality reproduction capabilities.
Most of us are not putting $800 headsets on a liquid cooled tuner that comes from $800 interconnecting cables with a power modulated, power clean power supply. We're not sitting there and
speak for yourself, Todd. I have a couple of those here.
Okay, I would not doubt that you do.
I'm just pulling your leg.
No,
Todd.
it's great. They have a high definition, high def podcast platform.
There you go. You can pay the bandwidth bill too. No. It's just that you're abusing your listeners is what you are.
My sarcasm is just oozing.
I know. I mean, you're kind of abusing your listeners because you're using up a lot of bandwidth in their phones or in their whatever that's unnecessary.
But Rob, they know the technology and they put 2 enclosures in a single RSS feed. They know the technology.
There you go.
Yes, 2 enclosures in an RSS feed, one normal, one high def.
Oh, that's going to work out well.
It's going to work out fantastic.
There was a time, though, Todd, when there was talk about this in the podcasting space. I'm sure you remember, right?
Yeah, of course.
About adding multiple links in an item in an RSS feed.
It would have been fantastic if we could have supported
medium quality, and high quality, right?
Yep, it'd have been great. It'd have been fantastic if the space would have supported it. I was all for it.
And it usually was focused on video podcasts at the time, if you think about it. Twit. I think it was really brought to mind based on what Leo Laporte was doing in the early days of the medium.
Because he had five audio feeds, one in RAR format, and like 3 or 4 video feeds. So he'd have like 8 to 10 feeds for a single show.
Exactly. You'd have like low video quality, medium video quality, and high video quality, and even maybe sometimes an HD version.
I did that here for many years.
Right.
Yeah. So when I first started producing video podcasts on about episode 600 of Geek News Central, I produced because bandwidth was even worse then, I produced a 320 by 160, a 640 by 360, and that was SD. We weren't even going 16 by 9 at that. Oh yeah, we were going 60 by 9. Still today, I only do this show as high as 1280 by 720. But I used to produce 3 separate video feeds for this show, and then, or any of the shows I did with video, and I did 3 different feeds for audio. I did a 16, I did a 32, and a 64 back in the early days.
Yeah.
And the 16 sounded pretty bad.
Yeah, and I mean, my thought at the time, back in those days when I was working on Zune, was that we would have feeds that would come in from content creators that would have these different quality levels, and then in the UI of the playback, you could play back whichever file you wanted to in the same listing, right? But it never happened. It never got added to the RSS spec. So,
and we did RAR versions of the media. We did
even BitTorrent. Remember BitTorrent for podcast distribution?
Yeah. Right. We even had we were setting up seeds, what they would call a seed for BitTorrent. So stupid stuff.
Myself and a guy by the name of Peter York set up what was it called, downloadradio.com or something like that, and it was basically a BitTorrent network for distribution of audio programs. Yeah.
So what happens now when you're on Spotify or you're on any of those other platforms, they automatically adjust the quality based on your connection. You don't know that. But if you have a bad connection, they lower your quality to deliver it to you. And then if you're on a bigger connection, they up your quality. So on their streaming version, they do have multiple.
Well, but that has to be done through a variable bit rate, doesn't it?
Right.
File, so they have to transcode it to a a VBR version.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it tech-wise, but they do allow the quality to increase based upon any true streaming service that's on those apps. Pretty much do that now.
But don't put your MP3 out as a
Oh,
variable
no,
bit rate.
no, don't do that.
Don't do that. In the regular distribution, Todd, we have to be careful on that one.
Yeah, fix bit rate, everybody.
Right.
Don't do VBR.
Don't do VBR. Uncheck that VBR button. Yes.
Because you'll find out real fast. You'll be calling your podcast. Why is my audio weird?
Freaking Mickey Mouse on me. Right.
Yeah, so Sean says, remember some podcasts used to publish alternate feeds in Windows Media audio format? Yeah, we all did that. We all had multiple formatted feeds. I had one
Real
page,
audio,
all that stuff.
RAA files.
Yeah.
AMR what was another format for mobile phones.
It just drove me crazy how many formats I had. So you guys think you always got it easy now. You just produce one format, you know?
Well, so on the video side, it's MP4. Just so everybody knows, if you want to do a video podcast, put it out as an MP4
right.
video format, and put out an MP3 is the recommended thing now
for audio.
Right, for on the audio side.
But it's so as soon as I saw one of their feeds with dual enclosures, I actually chuckled and I sent it over to Angelo, and he says, "Oh, we've known that's a no-no since 2006." But I'm like, well, you know, you've got new kids on the block, and they don't know.
Right.
It'll work on their app or their site maybe, but it's not going to work anywhere else.
Yeah.
And also, most of you didn't know that you can actually publish a PDF file as a podcast too. Did you guys know that's a viable podcast format, is PDF? I bet you a lot of people didn't know that.
It's pretty much only available in Apple's platform.
Right, in Apple Podcast, yeah. But it is a format that can be published.
Yep.
I bet you some of the podcatchers don't even know.
That.
Yeah, we do too.
Yep.
I bet you Anchor doesn't.
No. Actually, I would say just about all of the newer platforms don't support video. They don't support other types of enclosures like PDF. I mean, let's be honest about it, Todd. Not that many people did it, but you know, if you're doing like a science research podcast or something like that, it's kind of helpful to be able to publish a research paper.
But you can't post two enclosures in one RSS feed. That's still a big no-no. And if you do, then Apple and everybody else will take the first enclosure that they see.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll ignore the second one.
Yeah.
Man, oh man, that's we shouldn't even talk about that, because the next thing you know, someone's going to be posting 5 enclosures in a single feed because they heard it here. Yeah, just remember, it doesn't.
I don't even know if you can.
Well, most platforms, if someone's rolling their own, they could, but.
Todd, that has a whole other different kind of meaning.
Well, we're not talking 420 here, 420. We're talking. we're talking. Some people are probably surprised I know what 420 is. So.
You weren't just born yesterday, Todd.
No, I wasn't. So the matter of fact, I was joining a generation that well, never mind.
You don't want to go there, Todd. Don't go there.
What was I going to say? I got distracted by weed. Well, I really got distracted. Yeah, so it just goes back to people would put more than one enclosure in some of the early platforms, and was very, very early to signed off on that was a bad thing. And Dave Weiner said no more than one enclosure per episode or per item, which is really, if you think about it, was pretty short-sighted by Dave. But they do have there's another tag in there that can be used, but let me forget. They were talking about it, and where were they? They're talking about an R channel, the RSS channel. What do you take on the? I don't know if we talked about on the last show. What's your opinion on Grace Note? I think we talked about it a little bit about Grace Note jumping into the on-demand and advanced podcast search and discovery field.
I don't really have much of an opinion on it. I've known that was kind of happening, but I didn't.
Of course, Rob Walsh has a very strong opinion on it. Not that I was doubted I would see something from him otherwise.
Well, I don't really have much of an opinion on it. I think they can do what they want to do.
So, yeah, and the only thing I worry about was what I saw in their press release on how they're going to modify titles and modify metadata. That was the only thing I'm kind of worried about.
Really? Wow. I didn't see that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
They had a part in their press release that talked about changing titles, and again, to better serve for discovery, and they better not be changing my titles.
Did you see where that it was just announced that Fox News is getting their podcasts into Spotify now?
Yeah. So they're on the welcome to the party. I think we talked about that on the last show, but
did we?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, but like someone's either paying someone or someone's decided to put stuff over there.
Yeah.
Saw a lot of snarky comments about that, and I'm just like, if you're a podcaster and you're not doing a political show, it's better just to stay away from the political commentary about that type of stuff, because it just doesn't do you well if you have on either, 50% of the audience is going to get pissed off one way or the other. So,
right. So did you see where I think we have a new competitor to our show here?
Oh, really?
That's out there. Yeah, I'm trying to find it. I think it's done by. Let me see here. It's done by. It's called Media's New Deal. It's a new podcast from the founder and CEO of Oxford Road, Dan Granger, which I think we both know Dan. His first episode, he had an interview with Wondery's Hernan Lopez.
Okay.
And the CEO of the Intercom Group, which owns Cadence 13 and Pineapple Street Studio. So, it's an interesting launch of a new show that's kind of in our kind of area.
But it's a solo show?
It appears so, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. That was interesting.
Let's see here. There's the tech heads are talking a little bit in the feed here.
The tech heads.
Yeah. Christine, you said good one, Rob. What was that, Christine? I'm sorry. Let's see here. Sean says the image files like JPEG are part of the original feed and closure spec made by Dave. I doubt most podcasting apps support anything other than audio, video, and many don't support video. Yep, we talked about that. Eileen says, yes, I published a PDF before, but I have no way of knowing if anyone ever downloaded it. Well, Eileen, if you were using Blueberry Podcast Stats, you would know whether or not that PDF got downloaded, because we do measure PDF.
So does Libsyn. Yep.
So, I was trying to catch you guys on one.
So Rob Walsh also put out there that this past week that there was a 15% decline in weekly downloads.
I don't get it.
Since the pandemic started.
Don't get it. We're not seeing it.
Not at all, huh?
Not seeing it.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's like some platforms are seeing no change. Some people are seeing increases. You guys are seeing decreases. I'd like a little more deeper dive into why we're all different.
The only thing I can point it back to is it's just the composition of the content on our networks.
Yeah,
that's the only thing that could be driving it, because we're all basically measuring pretty much the same way.
Yeah,
mostly.
Christine said, "Oh, Rob is just funny." Well, Rob, you got a compliment.
Me, Rob or Rob Walsh? Is it me or?
I'm assuming it's you.
Oh, I'm funny?
Yeah, I was just like, wow. Okay, or maybe Christine's referring to Rob Walsh. I don't know.
What's Christine's last name?
Blackburn.
Oh, okay.
So maybe she's referring to you.
Story-worthy podcast.
So how about you, Christine?
Hey, Christine.
Are your numbers up or your numbers down? How about everybody in the group? Where do you guys see your numbers at right now? Those of you that are watching.
Well, I'm sure that hers is probably up because does kind of comedy type stuff.
I'm looking over here we got quite a people on YouTube. Do you know Michael Greenlee there, Rob?
Well, that's the name of my son.
Well, he's watching. He's watching us on YouTube right now. Over in Russia, right?
Yep. Correct.
All right.
In Sochi, right?
So, are they locked down in Sochi?
Kind of. I think. Yeah.
Because Moscow's got a big issue right now. They're prime time right now in infection.
It's not from what I hear, it's not a big issue in Sochi, but it is becoming more of an issue over there, right?
And then we've got
as it is in a lot of places around the world right now.
Yeah.
Right.
So
go ahead.
We got Rita, Michael, think Pad to Sue that's watching us on YouTube. At least the ones that have checked in. There's more that's watching. Make sure you say hi in chat, folks, if you're watching on YouTube. And then I was going to look over here. Yep, she just linked her show, Storeworthy Podcast. And she says, I haven't paid much attention to my numbers lately. Mike Dell says, mine are up on all 3 shows. Oh, she says, I'm actually up. So she is. Her numbers are up. So
I can believe that, with the kind of show she does.
Yeah, Rick says, I haven't paid much attention to my numbers. So Matt says, down about 10%. People are taking longer to connect and consume podcast episodes. Matt, what's your show about again? What's your content about? Because all my shows are up, including this one. But they're all more news related.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my Geek News Central.
Which I think in the environment, it makes sense to some degree. People are looking for updates on stuff.
Yeah.
And you do talk a fair amount about what's happening with the COVID stuff.
Well, yeah. And it's like my last show, I just kind of went off, and it was really about, I said that I'm going to start being more frank on the show. And I talked about mask. I showed my mask. And I talked about how I use a mask when I go to a store, and if you don't wear a mask, it's your choice. But if you just be prepared. People are getting a little bit hostile out there, and I don't care whether you do or don't. But I'm not going to let you get within 6 feet of me. That's basically it. I don't care if you do or don't. Matt is on podcast and broadcast, so. Is it more instructional, Matt, if I remember correctly?
Mm-hmm.
So.
PodTrack put out their new ranker for April, looks like. Or did we already look at that?
No, we didn't, but I think somebody went up. iHeart went down and NPR went up, or vice versa?
No, iHeart's number 1. With
Be careful.
I know. iHeart's number 1, NPR's number 2, the New York Times number 3.
According to the PodTrack ranker, that is not an all-inclusive ranker.
Right.
Matt says broadcasters are understandably scattered these days. It's fun watching. They've gotten better. Their quality has gotten much better on them doing remote. But every once in a while, this is how I demonstrated it on the last show, Rob. Broadcast people sometimes go,
well, more of them have gotten green screens. I'll just put it that way.
Right.
That's for sure.
Yeah, and you can see the bleed. They're doing pretty good on green screens, though.
Right. I would say so.
The keys.
I would say so. I think that their team came out and put some lights in their house
and said, "Don't move."
Right. Stay still when you talk.
But that's what I was demonstrating. Is it looks choppy sometimes. I get to laughing about it, We get that way once in a while here too, but nowhere near what those broadcasters do. So, of course, right about this time is when you're going to freeze.
Of course.
And we're doing pretty good. This connection, I'm going to have to knock on wood because I upped our video quality. So now I'm pushing.
Good.
Yeah, we're now almost pushing 5K per stream. So and it's at 1280/720. I could up now to 1920 by 1080, but I've got it just about maxed out for 4.5, 4.6K for 720, and that is just about as good as it's going to get. So, I upped it a full 1,000 kilobits per second on both streams, going to YouTube and going to the transcoder. We lose a little bit in the transcoding, of course, at Wowza, but so far everything's holding tight. Plus, I'm pushing to live stream again. We haven't been pushing to there for a long time, so don't know if anybody ever watches. I never even look at the stats, but I'm paying for the account $500 every year. I should use it. So,
yeah. Hey, Todd, did you hear about this webinar that Shure is putting on?
I did not.
It's a webinar for microphone selection and placement for podcasting and mobile recording. It's actually next Wednesday, May 13th at 11 a.m. Central Time.
Smart on them.
It's free. It's free.
Yeah, I'm sure they're going to be talking about all the Shure offerings.
Yeah. Well, we're both using Shure mics right here.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. So you can go sign up. It looks like, yeah, I don't know. I would just do a search for Shure webinar on microphones or something, and you'll probably find it.
Eileen says, why does anyone report on the PodTrack stats? I'm not sure who cares about PodTrack. I'm being serious. She doesn't know why people report on that.
Well, it's the industry, but it's the radio people that care about it, right?
Yeah.
More than really anybody else.
So one thing I will say, Rob, though, of all the mic, and I've used a lot of mics before. I've used a Rode NTK. I've used of course, I used that Blue mic mouse for years and years and years. That was my primary mic probably for 10 years. I used the Heil PR40. I've got in a closet over there, I've got $3,000 worth of microphones that haven't been plugged in 10 years. And same stack over here. I haven't changed that with my audio rack. My audio rack's the same. I'll just be the first to admit this SMB7 is just about as good as it gets, at least for my voice. I'm pretty happy with this microphone.
The SM7B?
Yeah, the SM7B, yeah. I'm pretty happy with the end result of this mic.
Yeah, I think it sounds good, especially with your voice.
Yeah, it does okay.
It sounds good.
And I think every person's voice is different per mic. So whatever post-processing you do too has an effect.
So Shure is selling these microphones, the SM7B, for $399, it looks like.
Well, maybe they'll offer a sale after their webinar. That
would be nice.
So if you're in the market, maybe they'll give attendees a 10 or 15% discount. If I was Shure, that's what I'd be doing.
Yeah.
So it's always worth leaving that playing in the background and at least sign up for it so that. Did you find that in Pod News or where did you find that out?
Yeah, I found it in Pod News. Yeah.
So those of you that are on the Facebook page, Eileen posted a link to the Shure webinar in there, so get signed up for that and pop in there if you've got time, and even if you don't watch it, let it run. So it's at so for those of you listening, p.shure.com/mic-pdcst they could have. Why did they do this? I just stumped -MBL
RCRD.
Yeah. So just search for the microphone selection and placement for podcast and mobile by Shure. You'll find their Google. Find it via Google, probably easier. Or come over to my Facebook page and it's linked in the comment section. Thanks, Eileen, for providing that.
Yeah, that's great.
All right, so we're at 90 minutes, Rob. We snuck through.
We did. We made it again, Todd.
and I'll say this: I think I'm close to being final on. Of course, you never know. I might come up with something next week, but I was having huge difficulties in maintaining quality in the demo studio, and I went to a over-the-ear boom mic versus a lavalier, wireless lavalier. It's a wired connection via XLR,
Mm-hmm.
and I just got a. I'll show you. This is a little different.
Yeah. So how much was that? I mean, I would love to try that out.
Oh, my over the ear. I bought them 10 years ago, and I was surprised. I have two of them, and they're $400. The one I'm using. So I bought a FetHead Phantom. This is different. Now, be careful if you ever buy a FetHead, because this one allows the 48 volts to pass through. It powers the amplifier, and it will at the same time allow because that over the ear one is 48V, and that's why it makes it really awesome. But this particular FetHead, they make FetHeads, different types of FetHeads, and I'm a big fan of FetHeads, but this one here is a lot of people that have the SMB7 run a FetHead.
Is that a gain booster?
So it is, and it uses the 48 volts off your mixer. So you got to be able to send 48 volts to it for like the SM7B, but it won't allow the 48. The other ones won't allow the 48 volts to go through. This one allows the 48 volts to pass through and go into the over the ear mic that I have, and because it's a condenser mic. The one that's over the ear. That's why it's better for pickup than the lavalier, which is dynamic. And
right. But it's going to pick up everything, though, right?
No, because it's over the ear. It has. I was really for $400. That sucker better be awesome. I didn't really because I ran it. I said, "Wow, that thing really sounds good." And I was kind of shocked how good it sounded. And I'm like, how much should I pay for this? And I went back, and again, I have had two of these in my cabinet for 10 years, haven't used them. I was going to use it for something else. I never liked how it kind of, because you do have to get it positioned, and you got to make sure you've got it hooked in the back so it doesn't bounce around.
Right.
Some people will even use gaffer tape and different ways to keep it in place. And I was just blown away, and I went on to B&H, and I typed in the model number, and it came up I'll send you the stock number, but you do need it. I was running a 50-foot XLR cable too, so I was losing some of the power, but I need something in front of it to push it a little heavy. So this just came in $89. So I'll get this hooked up today and see how it sounds all the way through the pipeline.
So is it a Cascade microphone? Is that what it is?
Do I have? I think. Hang on.
I was trying to find it on their website, the FetHead.
Oh, no. That's not a microphone. This is just the amplifier.
Oh, that's right. What's the name of the microphone?
Oh, you're going to ask me now because...
Of course, I had to ask you.
Yeah, and I thought I had... Shit, I don't have the case here. I'll have to tell you in another show, Rob. I'll get you the model number. But it's really, really good. But yeah, a little pricey, and then again, it's a little tricky to get it set up right.
Right.
And but anyway, I'll be putting out some stuff here soon. I wanted to be wireless, but it's just better to be wired. And in that studio, it's fine to be wired. It's not a big deal. I just got to run the cable over the overhead so it's not stretched out on the floor. So one more cable to run.
Well, it's going to be better if it's wired.
Yeah, for sure. All right, then.
But if we could do this show with just an ear mount mic, that would be better than having these big booms in our face.
Well, that's true. So I've never thought of that. So that's a potential as well. But I don't think we'll get even with the booms, I don't think you'll get as good a quality. Maybe. You can try it. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. And everyone, I'm Todd at blueberry.com. You can reach me on Twitter at Geek News.
You can reach me off of my Lipson email, robg@lipson.com, and I'm on Twitter as well, at Rob Greenlee, and that's with 2 E's. And, send me an email if you have something to share.
And
we're all ears.
Yeah, before we go, she says, here's something pretty cool. I wrote to Bose, and they gave me 2 pairs of Bose 700 headphones for on-air acknowledgement. Well, that's nice. That's those are worth a little bit of money. So awesome. I wear a Shure in-ear. These are about, I'll get the model number, but they're about $400. What I wear in-ear.
Oh, I would imagine the sound's pretty good coming out of those things.
Oh, they're not studio quality, but they are basically a pretty high end from a consumer market goes for music. So that's what they're really designed for. But I didn't have the money to do the molds.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time here on the New Media Show. Make sure you get over to newmediashow.com, get subscribed, get a PhD in podcasting by two Podcast Hall of Fame members. And that's Rob and I, of course. And we thank you for being part of the show. If you think we're worthy, we've got to donate to the show and support the podcast link on the webpage. Maybe we can experiment with our model here. Are we worth $15 a month, or $5 or $10 or 50 cents or 6.7 cents a day, which equals $2? So,
or a penny a month.
Or a penny a month, yeah. Or that's what they do. And if you want to piss somebody off at a restaurant and they haven't served you a penny at the bottom of a water glass, that's
right.
There's your tip.
There you go. Well, we'll be back on Wednesday, right,
yep.
Todd? So we got to share that at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, right?
Yep.
Is that right?
And Rob, we didn't hear the train today, so must be they don't run on the weekend. So
it must be.
I know. All right, everyone, take care. We'll see you next time.
I'm good with the mute button.
Oh, maybe as well. All right, everyone. We'll see you on Wednesday. Everyone, take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Oh, we forgot, Rob. You know what we forgot?
What?
Happy Mother's Day to all the moms. Happy Mother's Day.
Oh, happy Mother's Day. Right.
Yeah.
Can't forget that.
We're so horrible. All right. Happy Mother's Day.
Call your mom. Tell her that you love her.
Yep. All right. Bye.
And you'll be good for the rest of the year.
Yeah.